それでは定刻となりましたので、これより本日
So now we would like to begin the press conference regarding the change of representative directors announced today. Thank you very much for taking your time out of a busy schedule and for joining us at such a short notice. This press conference, including the Q&A session, will be broadcast live online only to members of the press and the capital market professionals to whom we have extended an invitation. The press conference will be also posted on our website from tomorrow. Thank you for your cooperation. Let me begin by introducing today's speakers. From the left, President and CEO Yoshihito Yamada. I am Yamada. Thank you for coming. Next is the Managing Executive Officer, Company President of Industrial Automation Company, Junta Tsujinaga. I am Tsujinaga, and thank you for coming as well. And then we have Fumio Tateishi, Chairman of the Board of Directors. I am Tateishi, and thank you for coming. And next, let me explain how we proceed today's press conference. First, Mr. Yamada will explain the changes in representative directors, followed by Mr. Tsujinaga and Mr. Tateishi, and again Mr. Yamada to give their remarks in this order, which will be followed by a Q&A session and photo session. The online webcast will end after the Q&A session. If you're participating online and needing a photo, please contact our corporate communications and IR at a later date. The session is scheduled to end around 5:35 p.m. I am Igaki, in charge of corporate communications and investor relations. I'll be facilitating today's meeting. So first, we want to invite Mr. Yamada to brief you on this announcement. Good afternoon, everyone. I am President Yamada. Thank you for taking your time out of your busy schedule and also for coming to this press conference today on such a short notice. And I'd like to thank all of you who are joining us remotely. As the MC just introduced, let me first share the contents of the resolution and its background. So first, let me share the details of the decision. So at the board meeting, so decision was made to step down from the roles of President and CEO at the end of March of this year, and then Mr. Tsujinaga to assume the role of this President and CEO effective April 1st. Mr. Tsujinaga will also become a representative director, and I will assume the role of the Chairman of the Board of Directors at the shareholders meeting. And also the Chairman Tateishi will be also retiring from the role of Chairman of the Board of Directors to then become an honorary advisor at the shareholders meeting. So these are the resolutions the Board of Directors meetings made today. And please also allow me to share more context on these decisions. As you may know, I've been in the role of President and CEO since 2011, and this year is the 12th year. The Great East Japan earthquake happened in the first year of my role. Since then, OMRON has weathered 12 turbulent years, including sharp appreciation of Japanese yen, US-China tensions, and spread of novel COVID virus. Then we went through these years, and last year, finally, we launched a new long-term vision for 2030. And we are expecting to achieve record results in fiscal 2022, the first year of the vision. So we are making an excellent start towards the next 10 years. Throughout all this, OMRON has become stronger by overcoming many challenges. And I realize that we are facing new opportunities to drive the next phase of growth, and And we are now moving to the next phase. And now we have seen many leaders who've grown through these years. So that's why I decided that now is the timing to ask these new leaders to take the role of to lead the company and propose my resignation to the CEO Selection Advisory Committee. And let me also share why we believe Mr. Tsujinaga is the best candidate for the next CEO. We went over the selection process for many years, and we thought he was the best option to lead OMRON. And basically, there were three key points for his selection. At first, his management style is very hands-on and he's widely respected. Second, he fully embodies OMRON principles. And thirdly, he is a leader who has demonstrated the ability to achieve targets. He is going to introduce himself later on. Since joining OMRON, Mr. Tsujinaga has consistently worked in IAB. So there's no other person who embodies the practice of such customer-first approach within OMRON. So he basically led the business by staying close and listening to the voices of the field to solve our customer and social issues. He's assuming the role of president of IAB in 2021. He increased sales as well, and he's very trusted by the employees. And so we believe he was a qualified person based on his own experiences. So since he became the president, in 2 years, he increased the sales almost by 1.5 more, and OP approximately about 1.6 times more. So he achieved a strong growth of the business. He will be able to further develop the company. So those are the reasons why we chose Mr. Tsujinaga to be the next leader. So that's what I wanted to share at the beginning of this announcement. So now I want to invite Mr. Tsujinaga to give us some remarks. Hello, I am Junta Tsujinaga, who is going to be assuming the President CEO. Nice to meet you all. So, under the corporate policy, through the business to solve the social issues, OMRON has improved the corporate values over the years. As mentioned by Mr. Yamada, we expect to achieve the record high business performance this fiscal year. So OMRON has gone into the new stage of the growth. So now I am taking over Mr. Yamada's role, and my role is to further bring up OMRON's business to a new growth stage. And I want to today share about the 3 resolutions as the new President and CEO. First, this year was the start of the long-term vision, SF 2030, and the realization of vision is my first resolution. So, we are seeing good progress in solving the 3 major social issues through our business. So I intend not to make any change of this midterm plan or the long-term vision, so we can transform the OMRON to be a company who can continue to grow in a sustainable manner for 2030. Second point is to reinforce the execution capability. Under such a change in business environment, we are required to reinforce our execution capability more than what we've done in the past, especially the business cycle, decision-making cycle, and execution cycle will need to be rotated as quickly as possible to make the right decisions at the time. And thirdly, I'd like to create a working environment where each one of the employees will be able to work even more passionately and creatively, because the key for achieving the long-term vision is all depending on the execution by each employee. So I will create an environment where each one of the employees can exercise their creativity so that OMRON can continue to solve the social issues and will stay as the business required by the society. And lastly, OMRON will be having the 90th anniversary this year since its inception. And now I'm taking over this important role at this, milestone timing. And so I'm very honored to be able to take on this role in order to achieve this long-term vision. Based on all my experiences that I've gained through the years, I'll put all my efforts into this role for further development of the company.
続きまして、立石よりご挨拶
Next,
申し上げます。
we'll have
立石さ
Mr.
ん、
Tateishi
よろしくお願い
to
いたし
give
ま
us
す。
his remarks,
皆さん
to receive his
こんにちは。
remarks.
取締役会長の立石でご
Good
ざい
afternoon,
ます。
everyone. I am Tateishi. I'm the chairman of the board of directors. Thank you very much for coming out of your busy
本
schedule.
当にありがとうございます。
Really appreciate
先
your
ほど
participation.
山
Thank
田
you
よ
very
りも
much.
話が出ておりま
As
したように
mentioned by President
この
Yamada
6
earlier,
月の株主総
so
会
at
で
this
私は取締
at this
役を退任
shareholders
をし
meeting to be held
名誉
in this
顧問
coming
と
June,
して
I will
任
retire
を
from
させ
the
ていただ
chairman
きます。
and I will assume the role of
2013
honorary
年に
advisor.
取締役会長に
Back in
就任して以来
2030, I've
取締役会
since I
取締役会
became
議
the
長として
chairman of the board of
取締役会
directors,
を運営し
I have been dedicated to
株主の代表
representing
という
our
立場から
shareholders by
執行側を
providing
監視
the
する
review and
ことに
oversight of the
専念を
company
してまいりました
operations.
また社内におき
And
ま
also
し
at
て
the
は
same time,
2015年に
internally,
企業理念を改定する
I
と
led
ともに
initiatives to revise
グローバ
OMRON
ル社員
principles in
に対しまして
2015 and
ミッショナリーダイアログ
implemented the OMRON
と
principle
称しまして
missionary dialogue,
企業理念の振興
which
活動を
occurred
草の根
55
的に
times
継続をして
globally for the
まいりました
global employees.
その回数は2022年末
So
までに55
at
回
the so
を数えます。
that will be
昨
the
年
number
は
that I will
株
have
主
this
の
session
皆様
through
から
the
も
end
ご
of
支持をいただきま
2022.
して
And also receiving the support from shareholders, we have also incorporated the practice of corporate philosophy into the articles of incorporation. So through all these different activities and business world and also the public services, I think was able to contribute to the development of OMRON so that OMRON can contribute to the society. So looking back the 10 years as the chairman, I think we were able to contribute to society so it can be a better society through the business activities. I think we are taking a step closer towards that goal. So OMRON, Mr. Yamada became president in 2011. So OMRON has worked to resolve social issues through its business activities under the management based on OMRON principles. As a result, the market cap has increased by 4 times more, and OMRON is included in TOPIX index all the time. So OMRON has contributed to the creation of social value through various ESG commitments at the same time, because we are also included in the Dow Jones Sustainability Index world-class company list. For basically, we are selected for 6 consecutive years in a row. So I am proud that OMRON has become a highly regarded company of the global community under Mr. Yamada's leadership. So as stated by Mr. Yamada, so last year, OMRON launched the long-term vision for 2030 called Shaping the Future 2030, SF 2030. So OMRON has started moving into the next era. And in order to further accelerate the growth for the future, I think we will need the new next generation leaders with new values and ideas that are free from the past experiences of success. So there was an agreement between us and also Mr. Yamada, and I want to place my trust in Yamada to guide OMRON as the chairman of the board. And as an honorary advisor, I will continue playing a role to implement OMRON philosophy. Also externally, I'll continue the business and public service activities at the same time. But I will step back from the management, but will continue to support the new leadership. And also appreciate your continued support to Mr. Yamada and Mr. Tsujinaga in the coming years as well. Thank you very much.
最後に改めて山田よりご挨拶をいたします。
So now, once again, we want to ask Mr. Yamada to give us a few more remarks.
2011年に社長に就任して以来、
So, in closing, I'd like to say a few words. So, it's been 12 years since I assumed the position of the president in 2011, and there's been many ups and downs. But looking back, I think we've passed through them in a blink of an eye. But these 12 years have been marked by very turbulent upheavals. I'm proud to say that I've been able to practice management centered on our corporate philosophy. I think OMRON's employees, the directors, worked very hard and supported me. I'm fully filled with the gratitude. And above all, I'd like to thank Chairman Tateishi for his guidance over the past 12 years. Without which I would not have been able to continue. And now I'm taking on a new position to continue supporting the corporate governance, and so that I can meet the expectations of the market to help contributing increasing the corporate value. So it's not easy to sustainably develop a company under this uncertain business environment, but OMRON has many assets, especially technologies and human resources, and that's been developed over its long history. So I'm confident that the new president, Tsujinaga, will lead OMRON as the leader of Team OMRON and strive to solve social issues through our business. We look forward to your continued support and guidance. Well, thank you very, very much for your support over the many years. Thank you so much. Now we will move on to the Q&A session. So first we'll take questions from the audience in the room, and then we will also nominate members of press who are joining online. For those who are in the room, please raise your hand here, and I'll designate a person. Then once your name is called, please come to the microphone in the center. For those who are participating online, please press the raise your hand button and wait. And please mention your name, also the name of your media before asking the question. And also, it'd be great if you can keep your questions as brief as possible. So now we want to take questions from the room. Please raise your hand if you have any questions. The person in the very front, could you come up to the microphone, please? This is Tanaka from Kyoto newspaper. Thank you. I have a question for Tsujinaga-san. So you've been engaged in the IAB for many, many years. As a new president, under this SF 2030, what would be your key point of focus in achieving this goal? And what is your first job as the president? Please share your comments. Thank you very much. Your question? And regarding SF 2030, we have a very clear strategy, and we started the first year already, and we are getting a good reaction, the good results as the first year. And we think all we need to do is continue executing this strategy that we've set out in this vision. That's why we're reinforcing our execution capability. So the second question, what I'm going to do, that's the first item. So I've been focused on the customer or the field So first, people on the field, also all the stakeholders, I want to have more dialogues with all these people on the field so they get to know me, so they can trust me.
以上回答させていただきました。
That will be my answer. Thank you.
はい。ではもう一人、はい。手を
One
挙げ
more
ていらっしゃいます。前の
person, the person who's in the front, please.
日本経済新聞の玉岡と申します。
This is Tamaoka from Nikkei papers. I have a question for Yamada-san.
ご指名された理由
So,
のまず一つ目として、
The first reason for appointing Mr. Tsujinaga was basically he was the customer first or the field-oriented person, and also he's quite respected by the other members. But can you maybe elaborate more about any episode that you can share
そうですね。
for this first point? Thank you very much for your
先
question.
ほどの私の説明の中でですね。
In my explanation earlier,
現場主義を徹
I
底する
mentioned that Tsujinaga has been the leader who's quite, who's practicing the customer first or the field-oriented approaches. For example, the IAB business sales have grown by 1.6 times more for the last 2 years, because for the last 2 years, there's been a COVID situation and there's been lockdown in many cities and there's part shortage, many different changes he faced. And every time he faced those challenges and problems, he went to the production floor, also sales field, also procurement field. He tried to communicate with the key persons in those areas. He faced to them, he listened to them, and he tried to solve the problems on the field in order to achieve the target. So naturally, all the information and people gathered around him, and that's what he has practiced. He demonstrated that. And because of that, I felt the very first reason of choosing him was really realized by him. So
では
that is my
先ほど
answer.
手を挙げていらっしゃった。はい。
So earlier, I think you raised your hand. So you in the middle.
京都新聞の笹井と申します。
This is Sasai from Kyoto Shimbun. Thank you very much.
辻永新社長にお伺い
I have a question for Mr. Tsujinaga.
ちょっと挨拶と重複する部分もあるかもしれないんですけど、
This could be maybe overlapping from your remarks, but
告げられた時点での
when you were
ご感想
told to be the new
お
president,
仕事の中で
what did you feel?
あの
Also, in your past jobs, any memorable episode or anything that you place the most importance on, any words or the phrases that you always have in your
あり
mind?
がとうございます。
Thank you for your question.
まず私が内示を受けましたのは、約
When I
2
was
ヶ月ほど前
informed,
で
it
ございま
was
す。
about a couple months ago. That's when I was told.
上釜と山田から
So,
内示を受けました。
Mr. Kamiyama and Mr. Yamada told me about this announcement, the appointment. So SF2030 started this year, and I was leading. And I believe that I was in a position to complete executing this strategy. However, this was totally unexpected for me. But since I joined OMRON, I totally feel that OMRON raised me and developed me to this level. And this is a chance for me to get revert back to OMRON, or I can do something for the sake of OMRON employees. So that's why I decided to take on this job. And the second point about any kind of episode, so for many, many years, I've been in the IAB business. I faced a major turning point in my experience back in 2016. I-automation concept started. Until 2016, IAB was rather focused on selling components. That was the main business. But since the introduction of I-automation, we are now shifted ourselves more to a solution-oriented business. And I remember this clearly that we talked about future factory back in 2016, and we visioned what the future factory should be, and to realize them, we've been making very different efforts. And now we have come to a stage to be able to realize what was envisioned back then. So now I want to hand that over to the next generation so we can continue developing this future factory in the future.
他に会場の方から
Any other comments or questions from the floor?
はい、ではこちらの列
Yes, please.
2列目の方どうぞ。
Yoshida from Yomiuri Shimbun. I have a question for Mr. Tateishi, Chairman Tateishi. So at the board of directors meeting, so you will be stepping down from the board of directors. This is the first time to have no founding family members in the board. So in practicing the corporate philosophy, you thought it was okay for not having a family member in the board. What is your view on that?
ありがとうございます。
Thank you for your
お答え
question.
したいと思います。
Let me answer your
実は
question.
17年前になるんですけども、
About 17 years ago,
2006のですね
in
5月10日の創業
2006,
記念日
on May
に
10th,
当時
on
の
the founding
会
day,
長
then
立石義雄
Chairman
が
Yoshio
ですね
Tateishi
今後は
mentioned
経
that
営の求心力を
in the future,
創業者
the
創業家から
piece of the business management is not going to be the family member, but it will be placed on the corporate philosophy. That's the announcement made by Chairman Tateishi back then. So since then, in running the board, executive size strategies were mainly focused, and we will be supervising, monitoring and supervising such execution. And if those executive members are capable of executing corporate philosophy, it didn't really matter whether the board was the founding family members or non-family founding family members.
いうことで、それ以降ですね、もう17年が経ち
So
ます
since then, for it's been already 17 years
弊社の中でもそういう
in implementing such concept.
コンセプトが行き渡っております。
And this concept has spread throughout OMRON now. That's why I decided to retire from this board member position.
他に会場からご質問のございますか。
Any
では
other questions from the
はい
floor?
ゲストの方どうぞ。
So, Mr. or Ms. in the far back.
本日はよろしくお願いします。
Thank you very
産業
much.
新聞の野です。
This is Nono
まず先ほどの
from
質
Nikkan
問と
Kogyo
少し被
Shimbun.
ってしまうんですが、
It could be overlapping from the earlier question. I have a question for Tsujinaga, Mr. Tsujinaga. So what is your motto? Any favorite words
はい。
or the favorite phrase? Thank you for your
まず
question.
モットーはですね、やっぱり
My
現場を
motto
大切にするという
is
ことで
to
ございます
place importance on the field, the customers, the field,
仕事の基本はやっぱり現場
from
にあるということを
because
説明
everything
しま
starts
して
from the front of the
それを
field.
ここまで
That's what
説明
I
してまいりました。これからは
always
それを大事にしてですね、やっていきたいというふうに
what
考えて
I've always had in my mind, and I want to continue having this concept. And my favorite
創業者の言
phrase
葉でございまして
is our founder's words.
最も人をよく幸せにする人が最もよく幸せになるという言葉がござい
Someone
ます。
who makes the
これはです
person
ね
others to be
私ずっと
to make
非常に大好き
to
な
feel
言葉は
happy
ですね
is a person who can
常
actually
にこの
grows
ことを伝えてですね、共有
the
したり
most.
して議論
And I
してきております
always share this wording
で
whenever we have a new member
いろん
joining
な
the
情勢がです
company.
ね世界でありますけども、
And there are many things going on around the world. So now I find the importance of these words and phrase more under this turbulent environment. And so want to place importance on such a wording and phrase made by the founder in running the business in the future as well.
追加で質問なんですけども、
I have an additional question.
どういうふうに過ごさ
During
れ
the
ているのか、ご
holiday,
趣味などに
how
ついて
do you spend your holidays? What's your hobby?
はい、ありがとうございます。
Thank you for your question.
私はですね、結構体を動かすことが
I
好
like
きでございまして、
moving my body or working out. So on weekends, I walk a lot.
1日にですね、10キロ
I walk around 10k kilometers or even up to 15 kilometers a day. Just continue to walk
幸い京都はいろんな
silently
観光地がございます
because there are many sightseeing spots in Kyoto. So I can go around many different sightseeing spots and just keep walking the whole day and refresh myself to be ready for the next week. That's my routine.
ではそろそろお時間も迫ってまいりましたので、
And now it's getting close to the end of the session. If there are any questions from the floor, we can take one more question, but anybody else? If not, we also want to take questions from online.
オンラインでご参加の皆
For
様
those who are joining on a remote basis, thank you for waiting. So now we will take questions from remote participants. Please raise your button if you have any questions. I will designate the next person. Then once you are called, please unmute yourself to ask your questions. So first, from Nikkei ESG, Mr.
ご質問を
Soma?
お受けしたいと思います。こちらからですね、
Let us take your
制限を
question.
解除いたしますので、マイクをオンにしてご
Please
発
unmute
言くだ
yourself
さい。
and speak.
はい、ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much.
日経 ESG の相馬と
This
申
is
します。
Soma from
よろしくお
Nikkei
願いいたし
ESG.
ます。
Can you hear me okay?
山田社長にお尋ねいたします。
I have a question for
山
Mr.
田社長
Yamada.
の就任以来ですね、
Since the
企業理念経
since you
営
became the
を打ち出
president,
して
you have been running the business based on the corporate
収
philosophy
益力、成長
and
力の強化に取り組んで
trying
こ
to
られました。
reinforce the
自己
profitability
評価すると
improvement
すれ
and
ばです
also
ね、
management
何点になり
capability
ますでしょう
and the
か。
resilience
こ
of
の
the
記述と合
business.
わせてお
How do
聞
you
きくだ
grade
さい。
yourself?
合わせてですね、
And
現
also
状の
reason
11
for
年、
the
12年
grading.
を振り返っ
And
て
looking back the
みてで
past
すね、
12 years
社長として知
where
ら
you
せた
faced
と
many
思われ
different
た瞬
changes,
間、どんな時
what
で
was
した
the
か。
moment when you
はい、よ
faced
ろしくお願いい
you
たします。
happy?
質問ありがとうござ
You
います。
felt happy as a
そうですね、
president.
12年振り返ってみますと、
So looking back the
いろんな
past
こと
12
が
years,
ござい
there
ま
were
す。
many things that happened.
当時まだ私は経
At the
験も浅
time,
く若かったの
I
で、
did not
何
have
を
much
軸に経営
experience.
する
I
のか
was
という
young.
ことを深く考えま
I
した。そこ
I
で
thought
たどり着いた
over
のが
what
で
needs
すね、
to be focused in running the business.
創業の
And
理念、創業の精
then
神、
I
これを
came
大切
to
に、
this
これを
corporate
軸に
philosophy
事業
and
を
also
通じ
the
て社会
spirit
的課
of
題を解決しよう
founding
ということを推進して
period.
まいりました。
And I decided to focus on this philosophy in running a business. And there are 4 business companies. All of them do exist to solve the social problem through businesses.
私自身はベストを尽くしてきたと。
And I tried my best over the years. I believe, but grading myself will be left up to you. I want to leave it up to you. And to respond to my your second
振り
question,
返ってですね、非常に印象に残ったこと、嬉しかったことがた
the
くさんあ
most
るんですが、
impressive moment, or there are many happy moments at the same time, but
3年間のですね、
recent years, under the last 3 years, under the COVID situation, there are the efforts and made by the employees were very impressive, and I really appreciate the efforts. Even under lockdown, some employees stayed at the factory to continue running the production. There were many of such employees, and that helped to support continuing running a business.
非常に厳しかった時期にですね、
Even also under a very difficult situation, the controller for factory automation, sensors, and motors were all leveraged, utilized to come up with an artificial respirators for emergency use to save the lives of many people. There was such a member in this team. So I was quite impressed with such an effort by our employees, and I'm very proud of such OMRON members.
はい、ありがとうございました。
Thank you.
はい。それでは、続けて、オンライン
Next
でご質問、手を挙げてくださっております。
Question
読売新聞の
from
畑中様
online.
こちらの方から
Mr. Hatanaka from
解除いたしますので
Yomiuri Shimbun.
マイクをオンにしてご質問よろしくお願いいたします。
Please unmute your
読売
question.
新聞の畑中
This
で
is
す。
Hatanaka
すい
from
ません
Yomiuri
辻
Shimbun.
永
Thank
新
you.
社
Can
長
you
に
hear me?
お伺いしたいと思い
I
ま
have a
す。
question for Mr. Tsujinaga.
制御機器事業のご担当が長いと
So
いうこと
you
で、
have many
今
years
の
in
いわゆるファクトリーオート
IAB.
メーション FA 事業を
So
取り巻くその
the
事業環境に
the
対
business
する認
environment
識
surrounding the
っていう
current
のを
factory
教えて
automation.
ください。
How do you
まあ
how do you
各社
view
この事
the
業を
current
巡っ
business
ては
environment? Because there are many
め
different
ちゃめちゃ
players
大幅な
and there are
投資を進めております
and
の
the
で、このあたり
competitors
競
also
争
making a
環境
huge
を含め
investments
て
at
教
the
え
same
てくだ
time.
さい。
So what is your
もう
view
一点
on
が
this
経
competitive
営
environment
特
right
報
now?
酬アプリセンサー事業推進部長というのがござい
So
ますけれ
there's
ども、
an
これは現地に駐在して、
application sensor
要する
promotion
に現地で
team
この
for Europe.
事業を担当されていたという
Does that mean
意
that
味
you
なんでしょ
were
うか。もしその海
stationed
外でのエピソ
locally
ー
to
ド
run
と
this
か印
episode,
象
or
的
do
な
you
出
have
来事があっ
any
たらそれも合わせて
episode
教えてください。よろし
having
くお願い
experience
します
outside of Japan? Any interesting episode that you
ご質
can
問ありがとうござ
share
います。
through this
昨今の
experience?
制御機器事業に
Under
ビジネス環境ですけども、
Under this current
皆
business
様ご
environment
存知の通り
surrounding
非常に
factory automation,
不確実ですね、不透明な
as you all
時代
know,
が
it's
続いている
very
というふうに思って
uncertain.
おりますし、ちょっと
And
先
that's
行
still
きもですね、不透明な
continuing.
部分が多いかな
And
と
the
いうふうに
future
感じてお
still
ります。
remains to be
ただ
uncertain.
我々のですね、今まで持ってます経験や技術、
But based on our
知識など
experiences and
これ
technologies
が
and
活
all
かせ
the
る領域
knowledge
っていうのは
we've
ま
gained,
だまだございますし、
and there are many
我
areas
々
where
は
we
何
can
としても
exercise
社会
and
的課
leverage
題を
on
解決
such
するということ
technologies,
に
and we
チャ
are
レンジしてい
here
きたい
to
という
solve
ふうに
social
考えています。
problems. And we want to continue challenging on that concept. I know the environments are quite tough, but we want to take these the opportunities to continue making improvements. In response to the second question, in Europe, I spent 2 years in Germany actually, and I was involved in the marketing activities mainly for sensors. That was my first experience to stay outside of Japan. Also German language. I was not able to read Germans at all. So I struggle a lot in my life rather than the work. Shopping at the supermarkets, I struggle a lot. So rather than the job, I have a bigger impression about my life back then. Thank you.
畑中様よろしいでしょうか。
Thank you.
それではお約束のお時間になり
Now
ま
is
し
the
たの
time
で、
to
現在
finish
いただいているご質問2問でですね、
this press
終
conference.
了とさせていただきたいと思います。
So I want to take 2 more
まず
questions
1件目が
to
ですね、
finish
手を
this
挙げてくださ
session.
っております
So the
IT
first
メ
question
ディアの三島
is
様
from IT Media.
こちら
Mr.
解除いたしますので、マイクを
will
オンにし
unmute
てご発言
you.
く
So
ださい。お
please
願い
turn
いたし
on
ます。
your microphone to speak.
すみません、IT メディアの、
I am
長澤と申します。
長澤 from IT Media.
津永様にお伺い
I
し
have
た
a
いん
question for
です
Mr.
けれども
Tsujinaga.
まず、2021年に
In 2021,
カンパニーの社長に就任されて
you
から
became the president of IAB. And looking back the last 2 years, please give us your view. How do you feel about the past 2 years? And not, you're quite field-oriented. Any starting point of being such a customer-first or the field-oriented approach? Any reasons, any episode, anything that, made you focus on the field? Thank you for your questions. I was leading IAB for the last 2 years. As mentioned by Mr. Yamada, so many things happened, and we struggled a lot for the last 2 years. And the COVID, natural disasters, part shortage, Russian-Ukraine war, such a turbulent 2 years. But still, we were able to have a steady growth of the business and driving out the performance. I think it was because of the fact that we were able to place importance on the field. And we should not forget this concept even after I take on the management position of the company. And also regarding any episode of my experience, since I joined OMRON, I was involved in sales and the product planning, the marketing. So I had a lot of opportunities to listen to customers, the voices of customers, and try to take those voices into the business. In some cases, I wasn't able to meet the expectation, but all the hints came from the customers, came from the field. That's what was the base. Those are the basis for building up my thinking and concept. And of course, I faced some failures, but still, I want to continue placing importance on the field for the future. Thank you.
では次の質問で
Another question will be the last question.
日刊自動車新聞の梅田様
Mr. Umeda from Nikkan Jidosha Shimbun, the Nikkan Automotive paper. Please unmute yourself for asking a question. This is Umeda from Nikkan Jidosha Shimbun. Can you hear me okay? Yes. I have a question for Mr. Tsujinaga.
新社長がですね、見る御社のまず課題、取り組み
What is the challenge for OMRON right now? And how are you trying to address the challenge as a president? Thank you for your question. So there are areas to be changed and there are areas to be reinforced. For the areas to be not to be changed would be the practice of corporate philosophy. We need to further evolve or reinforce and solidify the practice of such corporate philosophy to start with. And the areas to be reinforced would be the reinforcement of the execution capability. Now we have strategies. It's very clear. We know what needs to be done. So more than before, we need to reinforce our execution capability So even under such a changing world, we can continue execute what we plan to do. The business cycle decision making will need to be run in a speedy manner in order to reinforce our execution capabilities. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. So that is all for the Q&A session. So this would be the end of the online broadcast. Thank you very much for your participating.